received from this, and so what I did is I asked for that, and then I went through and I checked all the partials against whether or not that made sense to me, whether or not I felt that what we had included in the document did actually line up, and was it our best efforts, or could we have done more? What I hope you can see from this graphic is that there's full assurance for many of those things. So, for example, legislative compliance. We've got high level assurance around our legislative compliance for a number of reasons, not the least of which is we've had various parties other than ourselves be involved in this template and in the information requirements that we have. Not the least of which is an external like Morrison Lowe, who've been involved in aspects of it, but our actual involvement with the Waikato Waters Done Well program, as Susan alluded to, we've had, for example, Waipa have been talking to DIA, Department of Internal Affairs, directly. They review this on our behalf. The plan's been reviewed, the template's been reviewed by Department of Internal Affairs, which then been shared, all that information shared with us. So this has been a collaborative process, and that collaboration has given us a high degree of assurance that we are on, we've got the right template and we've got the right information to go in this. We've had discussions, our team, Waikato Waters team, have had discussions with the local government funding agency directly about what we're doing, about our modelling, that the information that we're including is credible. And of course, Brad Olsen, of course, was involved as well, as many of you know. So I don't necessarily need to go through a whole heap of this detail, but what I wanted to do was to say, well, if you look at all, you've got all that detail, stand back a minute, and can I, as a CEO, give you the assurance that this document does represent all of that credibility in terms of the legislative compliance, in terms of the information that we should have in it. Have we sourced it from the best information that we have available to us? And that's our audited financial statements, our asset management plans, our long-term plan, our annual plan. All of that has fed into this. Is it a robust document? And I know, what I do know is that there are only two councils, and the other council's doing it today, that haven't approved their water service delivery plan following this template. Ourselves and one other council. All of the rest of the councils involved in Waikato Waters have approved, and we'll be submitting them jointly to Department of Internal Affairs. So, as a person who has to sign off the accuracy of the information, I can wholeheartedly say to you that this document represents our knowledge accurately and to the best of our knowledge. We have disclosed where we have vulnerabilities in terms of our compliance. We can say to you that through our long-term plan and through the amended figures that we put in our capital, that capital is designed to deal with those vulnerabilities. Probably the biggest vulnerability that we can't control, and even Waikato Waters can't control, is the delivery of that program. We believe that Waikato Waters will be in a better position than we will be to deliver the program that needs to be delivered. And so, but there's still risk there. We know we're not complying in some areas of our operations, as we've included in this report. We are reliant to an extent on our regulator seeing our plan, understanding our plans, and working with us with some tolerance. You've heard me say before, I believe that as a Waikato Waters unit in that entity, we may have more influence over our regulator than Matamata-Piako District Council has on its own. So, as I say, I'm not sure that this kind of, I have to say, what I did reflect on with that big document was thinking, how can we, and we do this with our annual report and our long-term plan, we have warrant of fitnesses that we put in front of you to try and give you that assurance. And I'd have to say that I think this kind of approach, where you can be assured without understanding all of the information, that we are saying, hand on heart, this document is compliant, does represent our best information, that has credibility associated with it, not only from the internal sources but external sources. I think that approach is something that I might introduce for other big pieces of work as well, because it is a lot to absorb. And we work with it, and the team work with it more closely than I. We work with it every day. It's a hard ask, I know, to put onto you. But I can say hand on heart that I have every confidence that this document is an appropriate document for Council to approve.
Thank you, Manoa. I think it does help give us assurance. I see a lot of nods. It's significant. I guess on reflection, when we look back, when the team were working with the transition unit back with the previous reforms, there was a lot of work done then. And I think the team really built on that and got more reality. That it's crystallised that there's a far greater reality in front of us than there was probably 3 years ago. I think that would be fairly accurate in that assessment. That I think this work now really does show our vulnerability of what lies ahead. We've invested a lot of capital in the last few years, but we've still got a lot of capital to go in order to be compliant. And we just sit on that knife edge between being fully compliant and not fully compliant at times. So, yeah, no, thank you for the explanation, and I think that table is really helpful, and it does provide that assurance for us, because there were a lot of numbers in there. It was great to see all our plants listed. I think to understand that it's not just one plant for Matamata, one plant for Morrinsville, one plant for Te Araka, and with the other outlying wood plants that we do have, was to actually paint a picture of the multiple plants that we do have and the complexities. So if there's anyone got any comments to make?
Sorry, I don't know if I just do need to highlight that the Waikato Water well figures, and it's highlighted in the report, and we've also added into the water service delivery plan specifically around some of the desludging conversation we have had. So just noting that we weren't able to change the financial model in that last minute, but we've noted it very clearly in the water service delivery plan that is a change. And when we had that last workshop, we looked at some alternative ways of funding some of the desludging and putting some capital and instead of funding it all under operational and spreading it out and taking, I suppose, a bit of a very calculated risk on that, though, that there are different ways of doing things. So I just wanted to highlight that's both documents.
I just thank you, Sue, because that's just reminded me to just point out to you that we had that workshop around desludging and strategy. I just wanted to point out to you that on page 44 of 96 of the WSDP, it just shows you that if you have a look at that, there's two tables there. And one of those tables shows, the top table shows what we had put into the penultimate version of the our plan, which had 8 million in 26-27, and then you'll see 4 lots of 8 million operating in the last 4 years of that 10-year program. And the table below that is the table that we have put in and the strategy we have put into the plan following our discussions with you. And I suppose the thing that you'll see, hopefully see, is that we've transferred money into capital, which makes more sense. Spread that capital out, and the work will occur post the 10-year period. And obviously the operating impact is significantly different. So we've translated that discussion with you about that strategy into this document. And it's a really important piece of work in the sense that we knew about this, and if we didn't put something into our water service delivery plan that was setting up our Waikato Waters entity in a position of a very difficult position. In our strategy, we actually didn't talk about regional potential, because there is regional, sub-regional potential in our strategy. I've had discussions with at least one CEO who said we've got exactly the same problem. We need to find a solution. And they were excited about the potential, I say only potential, of some kind of sub-regional facility. So we were conservative in our approach. I think it's, and I have to say, I thank Council for your tolerance in allowing us to bring this item forward to bring into our water service delivery plan. It's a big piece of work for us. It's a big piece of work for other councils, but I feel that we are doing the appropriate thing by bringing it into our plan in this way.
Just a question, the significant capital projects for drinking water. everything seems to be just starting 27, 28, which obviously is going to be most of us going into work here. Sorry. So what's the risk if that not happening?
So Waikato Water's done well. We need to meet legislation as well. So I think we've put our case forward, and those things do need to get done. I think there is some risk around from a Waikato Water's done well around the delivery of a huge capital if you're taking all the 7 councils together. But we do have to meet legislation. We have to do these things.
We've got wastewater projects all starting before that.
I think, I'm sorry, that's kind of the other part of that question is we have, when we've workshopped this with you, it's around us providing a capital profile that is deliverable. So we've had a couple of go at this, and having, very fluctuating capital works is very hard for teams to deliver. So we have been taking a little bit of risk with some of these projects, but we know that Matamata wastewater is taking up 60, 70 million in the next couple of years. So we have tried to do that full capital project for water and wastewater and I suppose spread it out a little bit as much as possible, so you won't see too much, because that wastewater this year and next year is a huge capital investment. But there are some drinking water ones in there too. Remember, that's just the major capital ones. There are quite a few in the next couple of years that we are still doing, but you're right, some of those key ones have moved.
That's the area. Yeah. There's a risk that somebody might be moved out. Should Waikato Water done well?
Look, I would hope that some of them are moved out. I would hope that they are, because there's 760 million to do in 10 years, and that's not doable. I would hope that, and I'm pretty confident this is what will happen, that our Waikato Waters Limited board and CEO, when they're appointed, will be talking to the regulators and saying, this is just not deliverable. We need some tolerance. And Waikato Regional Council, by the way. We need some tolerance, because NPDC can't do it on its own. And Waikato Waters is going to take a couple of years to really get its momentum. So, but what they will be relying on, without doubt, is our team's priorities and every other council's priorities. What we've had the advantage of is in the transition process, we've had a representative from the transition team review our capital program, specifically 10-year program, to understand the decision making and the thought involved in that. And I believe that model will be rolled out to the other councils that are part of this. And the feedback we had was, your plan is right, all of those things need to be done, it's how we do it. And so what I would expect will happen is they'll take the immediate priorities from our plan, because a lot of it will be in train, and they'll be looking at how to deliver the rest, and that'll involve talking to regulators. But I'll give you an example of a project where timing might change for other reasons. A number of us have got water metering on our radar, and it makes sense that the more that you put in and you coordinate that as one project, that makes a lot of sense in terms of economies of scale. So I'd expect that what we had it in starting in year 4 of our plan, or 4 and 5,
27, 28.
Yeah, that actually, I wouldn't be surprised if that's brought forward. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if that's brought forward for the CCO. To get the charging mechanism right, but so there is a risk. But I think though the risk, if I be quite honest with you, we have a risk now of delivering that program. There is a risk there. I would believe the risk is less with the CCO than with us.
So, mine's just a simple question: Are we there with the sign off of everything? So do you think will there be more to come with this sort of level of work? I know you've asked for expert advice from various bits and pieces, but do you see more sign off?
No, so the water service delivery plan, we've just got a couple of tweaks, and that's why we put in the resolution that we can.
And that's pretty much
yeah.
This is the key document. This is the key document that sets the platform for Waikato Waters Limited in the government legislation. Of course, there's still the legislation still to be passed. There's the other, there's one more piece to go, but and there's a lot of discussion out obviously in the media now around the funding, the issues of funding of these, and this is what's driving it. So I think the expectation would be is that the company, our CCO, will be negotiating quite strongly with the regulator and with the Commerce Commission, because you know, we can put all these things in, and you'll remember when we did the long-term plan, and it was like, we have to put these things in our long-term plan and show the intent to be compliant, because that's what the regulators will be wanting. But we knew realistically that it was going to be, it was a very optimistic plan from delivery. So we were kind of damned if we did and damned if we didn't. But at least we put all that in there, and when all the other councils put all theirs in there, you'll get a much clearer picture of where the wall of work is being done, and to be able to combine, you know, it'll be, yeah, I think we can set the company up to succeed. This is the best way to do it, is disclose everything up front now. Bruce?
Yeah, just my observation, right, and Manaya's covered them, but yeah, we as a council get a paper that talks about wastewater one, and then we start talking about sludging or whatever. This is total comprehensive. It covers everything down to the knives and forks, really. The interesting thing is just as Manaya really, when it all gets meshed together, right, just how big it is. It's mind-boggling as to know how the board and the chief executive of the new company are going to be able to put it into operation. And we've got to be confident that that they're there. It's a foundation document that you've probably had in bits and pieces all over the place, but it's put it all together. Am I right in that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Any further discussion or questions? Someone like to move the recommendation? Okay, Kevin's happy to move. Seconded, Dave. So it's one that council receives a report titled the Water Services Delivery Plan. The council approves option 1, approves the plan, and that we adopt the water services plan attached as appendix 1 to the report, as per section 17 of the Local Government Water Services Preliminary Arrangements Act 2024, and that we authorise the chief executive to make non-material amendments to the WSDP prior to the submission to the Secretary of Internal Affairs in accordance with the Act. The vote, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. There's a massive piece of work, and yeah, that's been yeah, well done. And the work really just starts in many ways, because it's now then going into the next phase of transition, and once DIA approve this plan, the interesting thing will be, the indication is that those of us that have gone with aggregation, while they will be looking at our plans quite closely, it's those that have chosen to independently operate as single council still that will face greater investigation, scrutiny, that's the word. Yeah, because this is, you can see this is laid out for years. This isn't just a short-term thing. This is laying it all out. So, no, well done, team, and thanks, councillors, for your support in through. Right, well, with that, that's our one.